It's wonderful to have you, Dr. Anirban Bandyopadhyay, Senior Scientist in the National Institute of Material Sciences in Tsukuba, Japan. And you worked on so many different aspects, particularly the microtubules in the cells and their potential for being a place where consciousness plays a role. Our group is interested in consciousness, and the podcast we have is actually called Consciousness is All There Is. And so we want to explore with you your findings, your thoughts, and the beautiful work you have done. So welcome on this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Let's explain just so that we have a good understanding, and those who are not familiar with neuroscience and neurobiology and biology, we'll start discussing what are the microtubules and where they are. So you've worked on them and you know them very well. So for the untrained person, how would you explain microtubules?
Yeah, so microtubule is a very thin string, just like a guitar string, and it is made of proteins. And just like DNA is a spiral or helical structure, like the galaxies are. And these like spring-like structures made of proteins are there in every single cell. So suppose we are made of, say, 10 to the power 14 number of living cells. Each cell, microtubule, is changing its length continuously. If a particular moment it stops, a person will die. It is called dynamic instability. So changing length helps us to transport food particles and many other transport, all kind of, it's kind of a super highway in the cells. But in the neurons, it's also packed. If you cut a neuron cell, which is considered as fundamental unit of consciousness, which is considered as unit where thought process is born, where our cognition, where our experience is generated. So for more than 100 years, we in the mainstream neuroscience, it was believed that it is everything. So the skin of a neuron is everything, just like imagine somebody is saying that our skin is everything. So inside the neuron, these kind of strings are there. But suppose something is helical and spring, so it has a direction. Like, so one direction it allows the transport much, and then other direction it doesn't. So one of the most beautiful thing about this microtubule string is that inside this protein helical structure, protein molecules are like balls. They are just like forming a spring. Inside that, water molecules form a crystal in a beautiful, unique architecture. It's not like water, not like ice. It's a beautiful structure that forms throughout. And on top of it, you also have a helical arrangement of water molecules. It's a 3 layers of helix, just like collagen. So most abundant protein in our body is collagen. It's the 3 springs connected together. Springs are everywhere. Even if I go inside the protein, I find alpha helices, they are spring. So spring, nature has put spring everywhere. So you can find microtubule in every single prokaryote cells, in the plants, in any animals. Cells are filled with microtubules. So you can find it everywhere.
Wonderful. So these microtubules then normally have been thought to be transport structures. Maybe they transport nutrients or water or channel something. But you have found something more in them, which could be not actually like a classical change or exchange, like localized in time and space entities such as we call protein, and we call, you know, small billiard balls moving around, whatever molecules or atoms. But there is something beyond the classical, which is more on the quantum mechanical level. And there is something about resonance and vibration. Would you like to tell us what is this that is in the microtubules?
So first, let's tell you some historical background and the perspective. How do I enter into microtubule? I joined National Institute for Material Science here in Japan, coming from India, in a program to build artificial brain. And I thought I was a strong believer of artificial intelligence. And I felt like many scientists, even now all over the world, believes that if you have enormous complexity, then you can realize consciousness. And it's not far away. And the day quantum computers will come, and then we will have trillions and zillions of decisions processed in fraction of a second, then consciousness is nothing. We can realize consciousness and we can do everything that we want to do or we want to plan. So uh, this was kind of a perspective where I was there. Then came fourth circuit element. 150 years ago, resistor, capacitor, inductor was discovered. But one particular device humanity was looking for 150 years, and that was fourth circuit element. What is that? That is, you store charge in a device, and that will generate magnetic flux. So this device, people were looking, were searching, and 2008 the discovery came that Hewlett Packard company and Stanley Williams and their group said that, okay, I have a sandwich structure and we can realize this. And I was then I was just in my 30. So I was very angry and upset, and I wrote to the editor-in-chief, Carl Gemelis, that look, this is absolute junk. Then he replied that we have received many letters like this and we will challenge, but still Memristor is a movement, and people now believe strongly that if you want to realize consciousness, you need Memristor. But I challenged very much at that point of time. And I felt like I need an insulator, insulating molecules and spring shape, so that I can store the charge, and because of the leakage current, magnetic flux will be produced. So there is no person in the world who has talked about such a device. And if it is what was missing in the industrial revolution of the world in electronics, artificial intelligence, then it must be somewhere. Then I searched and found microtubule. And I said, I am the only intelligent person in the world that I discovered that we need microtubule-like devices or DNA-like devices or spiral structures made of insulator rings, and nobody else. Then I searched and found the name of Stuart Hameroff. And I went to Hong Kong to meet him. That who is this man? So this is how my journey became entered into microtubule, because I was searching for a suitable device for thought. Humanity was also searching. They came up with Memristor, we came up with inductor. So it's an analog of microtubule. So that is how I took the microtubule. I didn't know what is protein. I'm a hardcore physicist, and quantum measurement is my specialty. So quantum tunneling, manipulating single molecules. Within 2 nanometer was my journey. Microtubule was 25 nanometers and long. So we have in NIMS in Japan, the best thing is that you can go to NanoFoundry, you can order anything. So there are special engineers. So more than 400 engineers work here. So we can take their expert help. And immediately I started doing the measurement. So quantum measurement was nothing very special. But good luck for us that microtubule was 25 nanometers, not so big. Long, it's fine, doesn't matter, but it's not much wider. So we started doing the measurement, that what are the conductivities, and then we found that it is insulator. So there were, in the initial days, there were lots of challenges, we wanted to understand if a polarized photon falls into it, spiral pathway, how it changes. So the most beautiful thing that we found is that when a polarized light, a photon or light falls on the microtubule, it passes through a spiral pathway, or any electromagnetic noise, if you pump on the microtubule, because of the spiral structure, it becomes quantized. So only those who allows in a favorable path, that are. This is why even in a elementary particle physics, to proteins, to any molecules, to our whole body, go anywhere, even to the outer galaxies, you will find spirals. Why? because spiral structure or helical structure is a process where you bombard with noise, any kind of jumping noise, it will select only those who can rotate through that path. So you can change the pitch, length, diameter, a simple geometry. But using that, nature has created this whole universe. So the beauty, I started discovering that I pump a photon, it starts rotating. So it creates vortex. So we published it. And then if we pump our electromagnetic noise, it becomes quantized. So, and what the most beautiful thing that we discovered was that because I'm from a musical family. So what I did is I try to look at the frequency resonance. I have it. So this is a historic document for me. So if I roll it out, it's a very, very long thing. Okay, very long. It will go. So I put all the resonance frequencies I found that where microtubule vibrates. Those frequencies I carefully measured using instruments. Manually build the instruments and try to measure which frequencies the guitar string vibrate. I found many, many, many frequencies, and I could not understand for years that who is making this frequency distribution, why? And I found one interesting thing that in the kilohertz domain, in the milliseconds domain, I found 3 peaks. And if I go inside, I found 3 peaks again. And so triplet of triplet, so 9 bands. And if I go 1 band and there are 12 frequencies. So I'm from a musical family. I know Indian raga. And Indian raga is Aroho. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. So you will a cycle. And 2 of them, 7 into 2, 14, minus 2, 12. So I find 12 here. So is it composing raga like music? And then one day, actually, I used to keep this in the passage, this paper. In the passage is long from one side of the corridor to the other side. So I used to look every day, and one day I found this. There is a pattern of primes. Prime number of peaks are coming together and vibrating. Then I understood that, okay, so it's a musical instrument. So from the very beginning, from the proteins to my whole body, it's a layer structure of musical instruments. Just like imagine a clock, and you have multiple points. And suppose I want to write a triangle. So triangle and a clock. Ding, 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 ding. So this kind of oscillation continues, and microtubule memorizes a triangle. So using geometric shapes, it is holding, and it's a beautiful world. So this is how my journey started in understanding the properties, the resonance, microwave vibrational properties, and then the water channel, water crystal. So it's absolutely crystalline structure. So many people argue that why should microtubule have quantum properties? Its room head is so warm, 37 degrees Celsius, and then quantum property needs cryogenic temperature. Come on. First of all, understand that every single molecule in the whole universe is a quantum mechanical device. Every single molecule in the whole, all bodies, entire molecule, room temperature, ambient atmosphere, there, quantum mechanical device. So to become a quantum mechanical device, you need cryogenic temperature. That is a stupid argument. Then what do you do to all these molecules? You just vanish them? No. You have to understand how their orbitals are coupled, orbitals are connected. Can I find out a mechanism to do that? So electromagnetic resonance is a way you can couple a large number of structures together and let the wave function survive. That is very much possible. So this is how quantum journey started, and then it went on and on and on.
This is wonderful. So the universe is a symphony, it's a symphony of creation, as they use that term. And now you made it real in terms of actual vibration and resonance. So how do you isolate the individual microtubules? Is this a difficult process to take one such a short thing, a small thing?
It's very simple. Very simple.
Easy. And then you bombard with photons, but photons are already quantum entities, no? And so can you explain to us what does it mean when you say a photon's bombarding and then they get quantized? Are
Yeah.
that already quantum entities, or they are
Yeah.
waves?
So photon, whenever I have a light source, when photons comes out randomly at a different phase, different direction. So photon is made of electric vector and a magnetic vector perpendicular to each other.
Yes.
So now the electric vector is, say you consider it, because intensity is much higher and magnetic vector less. So say electric vector this direction, and another photon comes electric vector this direction, another photon comes electric vector this direction. So what you have to do is to put a polarizer. It's a simple plate. So you pass the light, and then only in this direction light goes. So in a particular direction when the light goes. So microtubule has a birefringent property. What is that? It has an optical axis. So if you send the light, then the photon, it will try make an attempt to go pass through the optical axis, and another direction is the direction of your bombardment. Okay, so they split into two. So in the room temperature, a microtubule splits a photon into two parts. So entangled photons are created.
Wonderful.
So this is how. So many people ask questions. How come? How do you get entangled? How do you get entangled? Okay, this is how you get entangled. Okay, so another thing is that so when the photon goes, and another thing happens is spiral pathways. So electric vectors. So microtubule has another very interesting thing. That is, all the dipoles, if this is a microtubule surface, all the dipoles are 23.5 degree. So this particular degree, 23.5, this particular value has enormous significance in biology and the understanding of consciousness and quantum properties. If you take, say, one polarizer, just a piece of paper which sends light in a particular direction, and another perpendicular to it. So what happens is you block all the light, nothing passes. But if you 23.5 degree gap, and then you will find you will get more light there. It's called Bayes inequality. So what happens is quantum mechanically the photon knows beforehand, before passing through. The quantum is a weird phenomenon, right? So whenever you encounter a quantum world, every second you find something, you say nonsense. And if you don't say it, then you have not understood. So like quantum tunneling, you have less bias, still you are able to pass from one to another. So you are vibrating 10 to the power 22 times per second at this place. After some time, you would definitely be at some other place where energetically it is impossible to go.
Yes, to pass the barrier, yes.
And there is no path. Like quantum tunneling happens, and then we put different molecules, atoms are there. So we can, with electromagnetic resonance, we can vanish a part of it, and we can allow in other pathways where path doesn't exist. So because quantum mechanics, path cannot happen, because if you make the path, then you are in a big trouble, because your position and momentum has to,
it's just probability of existing different places, and one probability is to be on the other side.
Yes. So path is a very restrictive definition. So when photon comes and then photon goes through spiral, the collisions, it creates a ring of light. So imagine on a wall, if the photon goes, and we have a beautiful paper in the Symmetry magazine, where we have, what we did is we took out the single protein, 2 nanometer, because that's my specialization. Because that's where I feel more comfortable. I used to feel more comfortable, because I was working for a decade in quantum tunneling measurement of molecules and molecular switches, transmission through a single molecule, group of few molecules. So I took out the protein and I measured the music, triplet of triplet band, a similar kind of band in the microtubule. I thought it's a problem with the instrument. And I was checking in the membrane of a neuron cell, because neuron cell, if you cut it, you find microtubule. You cut it, you find single molecule. So you go from 100, 300 micrometers to 25 nanometers to 2 nanometers. So you go a large scale. 10 to the power 6 order. And then you find that it's a millisecond domain, but triplet of triplet band. Microtubule, microsecond to nanosecond time domain, but triplet of triplet band. And if you go to single molecule, again, triplet of triplet band. Is it as if somebody has engineered from smallest single molecule to the whole brain body system like a resonance chain. So it's a musical instrument, but I have triplet and triplet band. Another one comes slightly overlap. So there is a synchronization energy transmission pathway. And then it goes from 10 to the power minus 16 or 10 to the power plus 16 hertz to 10 to the minus 11 or 10 to the minus 12 hertz. So it's a plus to minus, it's a wide time range where the harmonica music, and it is not linear, you know, one inside another. So what happened? We were measuring microtubule, and then we found it's a millisecond vibration. And then we thought only millisecond vibration is happening over there. There is no microsecond. And then by mistake, we zoomed and we found another triplet of triplet in the microsecond. And then we zoomed again and another triplet of triplet in the. So at a time you see one, but inside that clock, there is a clock. So it's a clock inside a clock, inside a clock, clock inside a clock, clock inside a clock. It's within an above network. So that's why we came up with a new artificial brain proposal. And then if consciousness has to happen, it should not be linear. It should be within and above. So it's an orthogonal concept to the existing philosophy that was there.
That's wonderful. Why would that be 3 rather than 4 or 2 or 5? Is there do you have any logic for that?
Yeah. So what you do is, I wanted to understand understand why 3, and it took many years for me and the discussion with many scientists that why 3 is coming up. So what we found is that if you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, suppose for a moment consider that I am the nature and I'm the creator and I want to create nature, but I have no fundamental laws with me, right? Because fundamental laws, if I have already, then I'm not creating. Yeah. Suppose I am in such a situation, then what can I have? I can have only numbers, and I can do only counting and rearrange. Suppose I have a small tiny element, whatever be it. In string theorists would say string. Some people would say, okay, A, B, C, bubbles. There is a bubble theory, and then many. So elementary, smallest particle, whatever be that, I have it. What can I do? I can do only counting and rearranging. That's the only thing I can do, nothing else. So in the x-axis, I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, dot, up to infinity. And then I have, say, 6, 2 into 3, 3 into 2. 2 ways I can, so it goes up. And then for 8, 2 into 2 into 2. For 12, 2 into 2 into 3, 2 into 3 into 2, 3 into 2 into 2. In this way, we can rearrange the particles or elementary things. So if I do that, I find a beautiful curvature on the horizontal axis. I rotate it and I find a beautiful temple-like architecture. And that temple is actually a fractal. It's a teardrop-like structure. And if you go inside the teardrop, there's 3 teardrops actually, and you go inside. So because C2 and C3, 2 and 3, these 2 numbers are very fundamental. So what are the most fundamental thing in the universe? These are prime numbers. So prime numbers are the only thing which is not assumed. You can start with prime number of arrangement and let them oscillate, and all other numbers will be created. All other symmetries will be created. Like if I cut me half, it's a C2 symmetry. So how many objects of the universe have C2 symmetry? If you go 16 billion years ago, when the universe was getting created, 50%, 100 by 2, 50%, 50% structure. 16 billion years later, mankind may not be there. Whole universe would take a completely different form, could be, but still 50% of the structure would be follow the C2 symmetry. And C3 symmetry. C3 symmetry, how much? 100 by 3, 33.3. but 6 is divided by 2 and 3, so 16. So 50 plus 16, 66% of the entire universe has C2 or C3 symmetry. That's how the 3 comes. So both together controls most of the visible things. So I wanted to build an artificial brain. So what I did, I built the spiral microtubule-like resonance structures or helical structure. Where do I inspired to get helical nanowires? We took helical nanowires and we put them like C2 symmetry, C3 symmetry, prime number of symmetries, 2, 3, 5, C7, C11, C13, C17, C19, C23, C29, C31, C37, C41, C43, C47. But if we go, we go to add 50% plus 16%. So we go on adding and adding. Within 15 primes, we find that we have reached 86%. So if we have that, so then there was a query in my mind that if there is prime, really nature has made a conscious machine like me, a conscious system like me with primes. Then I checked Brodmann's region. Initially, when Brodmann decided, it was 53. Then they found some similarities. It's 47. 47 is a prime number. How many spinal cords we have? 31. It's a prime number. Cortical columns, how many layers? So each one cortical column here, 2 millimeter thick layer inside my skull. That's, they say, where the thoughts are born, where perceptions and other things, memory, and then all specific cognitive processes are born. How many layers on each column? 7 prime. Microtubule, how many protofilaments? 13 prime. You go to hippocampus, how many cavities? 17. So you go on wherever you go in the brain system. Even when we were looking at me, there are 10 to the power 12 number of molecules that are vibrating, and then molecules are C11. So again, prime. So you see the prime number of elements nature used to construct us. Everywhere I started seeing the primes, and then it consolidated me that okay, so it's a very fundamental, the most primitive system where there is no assumption. I just take the prime number of resonators, put together, and then grow up, and then it will be something that can emulate the vibrations and composition of vibrations in the universe. That is what is consciousness, because you are connected to the universe at every moment and you're synchronizing with it.
So this is beautiful. So there is a mathematical universe which has, everything has a meaning rather than haphazard or trial and error. So you feel that there is a mathematical basis, as some postulate that there is actually structure of mathematics that underlies what we see as physical.
So I told you 86%. I didn't tell you about the 14%. So the problem that begins is that after 47, you go on taking primes, large number of primes. You reach 90, 91, 92, 93, 30,000, 40,000 primes. You reach 94, 95, 96. You never reach 100. You never reach 100. So I am in our laboratory, we are making artificial brain. I'm in this laboratory. I don't have it here, otherwise I would have shown it. So we are making a machine that interacts with human, and we are testing many different kind of things. But please understand, in our system, we are using only 15 primes, only up to 47. We are not going beyond. So 100% consciousness emulation is impossible. The reason is the complexity of the engineering that you need. I mean, it grows exponentially. So suppose I want to include, say, I want to have 96% identical Tony Nader, then what do I do? I need, I mean, say millions of primes. So that means for each one, I need to build a resonator. So even if I try with millions and millions of years, I cannot create a suitable molecule. So 100% conscious machine is not possible to be created following the way we are saying it. So it's mathematical globally. It's mathematical, it's rule followed globally. But when you go at the fundamental levels, when you try to see accuracy of the thoughts and other processes, then you cannot emulate. The mathematics prohibit you. It's like asymptotic, the journey.
So you reach a limit. Now, as humans, we have consciousness, and how much we go into that. Like, if we cannot create a machine that is fully conscious, but we are a machine in a sense, according to this perspective. So how many primes and how many resonance factors are in a human being?